SNK Boss Syndrome. You hate to see it. Nothing feels worse than learning, improving, and overcoming during your arcade run only to hit a solid wall that throws all that progress out the window. Are you really expected to overcome this with a single quarter at an arcade? No, of course not. Not unless you're a fighting game god. SNK has several legendary franchises with some truly infamous bosses and sub-bosses under their belt. The road to fight these bosses, mid-bosses, and secret bosses may also have certain requirements to fulfill in order to even face them. Some titles like Art of Fighting 2 or SVC Chaos are infamous for having ridiculous requirements in particular, which only the most dedicated will bother to suffer through. Some secret bosses you only have one go at it as well, so if you lose it's a straight game over. Each game title has their own quirks, but most if not all of the SNK bosses are legendarily tough. These types of bosses are usually more broken than their actual playable counterparts. In a nutshell, lore-wise it's great as it adds to the mystique, but actually having to deal with the actual boss counterparts in gameplay can really put you in a spiral. For the most part, the telltale signs of an SNK Boss Syndrome encounter are as follows. This is including but not limited to Number 1. The bosses are cheap as hell. These bosses defensively leave little viable opportunity to fight back, while offensively they'll cheat you out of huge chunks of health. SNK bosses have great speed, strength, and health already to begin with, so a few mistakes are usually deadly. If you ever felt frustrated with the game, don't kick yourself too hard. These controls were also made in a way to work against you with the strictest of timing. It's not exclusively a skill issue either when it's under this kind of pressure, or alternatively, you can't read the situation because it's not normal. Number 2. The game cheats or is cheap. Like actually. SNK bosses will ignore or break several in-game mechanics as it is the game state. It's their rules, it's their house. This is something as small as being immune to grabs to having way more priority with their specials, or doing specials that would normally be impossible for a human player to do instantly and or repeatedly. The game basically reads your inputs and will anticipate the best possible circumstance for it. Some of the worst moments for SNK Boss Syndrome is when a boss gets ungodly meter spamming their own specials into supers, or just outright surviving what it simply shouldn't have. These types of bosses have way more extra advantage for no real reason. Now for number 3, the relentless and aggressive AI. Every second this motherfucker is not put into the ground, the shorter your life expectancy becomes. Starting out for the first time, you'll likely lose before you can even really begin to understand where you went wrong during the boss battle. Sometimes it can lead to hilarious results, but during the time that you're spending learning, it's just miserable and not really fun. The AI practically forces you to rely on unorthodox strategies just to stand a chance. And the bright side in that is that sometimes the AI is just completely porked in its tunnel vision, and you can loop the bosses into complete jokes, but your mileage may vary depending on the game. Now, you can blame faulty programming or the arcade's need for quarters. It's really hard to draw the line. Later SNK titles included the Continue service, which exists for people to try again after a loss with better advantages like full meter, or an opponent's reduced health, or something else like that, as an incentive to try again. In my opinion, it allowed more leeway for some bosses to run amok in later installments, but that's just me. It's a great thing otherwise. Although the name of SNK Boss Syndrome is derived from SNK's tendency for this, there are plenty of non-SNK bosses that actually share this trait as well. Ultimately, arcade ladders were meant for you to keep going and buy time until the next person in the arcade comes along to challenge you, whether it be a friend, rival, or total stranger. This sort of idea has kind of shifted in the modern era. Whether it's a re-release, fightcade, or other forms of emulation, there's plenty of options to explore, and save states if you really need it. Luckily, these games are beatable with enough spirit, with nothing as bad as a rare Akuma to truly mess up your day. If you are a fighting game god, please tell me about it in the comments below. Please like and subscribe at Suppository Repository for more.